Modern culture often celebrates escape as freedom. Leaving behind obligations, breaking ties, and reinventing oneself are praised as acts of courage. Yet history presents a quieter form of departure, one that does not seek self-expression, but self-renunciation. Some lives are shaped not by what is gained, but by what is deliberately left behind. The story you're about to hear is not marked by public conflict or dramatic conversion. It unfolds through silence, anonymity, and deliberate obscurity. It is the account of a woman who chose to disappear from the structures that defined her future, not to be remembered, but to remain faithful. Xenia was born into a noble Roman family during a period when Christianity had already taken firm root within the empire. Her upbringing reflected stability, education, and social expectation. From an early age, her life appeared destined for continuity within established structures of family and status. As was customary, her future was shaped through arrangement rather than choice. Marriage represented not only personal union, but social obligation and continuity of lineage. These expectations framed the path before her, leaving little space for withdrawal or refusal. Historical tradition records that Xenia responded to this future not with protest, but with resolve. Rather than entering the life prepared for her, she chose departure. This decision was not impulsive. It reflected an inward commitment to consecrated life that could not coexist with imposed expectation. Her renunciation took the form of flight. Xenia left her home and family quietly, accompanied by companions who shared her commitment. This departure was not an act of rebellion against individuals, but a refusal to allow circumstance to determine vocation. In leaving Rome, Xenia embraced anonymity. She did not seek recognition elsewhere, nor did she carry her former identity forward. The choice to depart involved loss of protection, familiarity, and status. What remained was discipline, prayer, and deliberate obscurity. This moment defined the trajectory of her life. Unlike figures whose renunciation unfolds gradually, Xenia's separation from her former world was immediate and complete. From this point forward, her story would be shaped not by origin, but by endurance and hiddenness. After leaving Rome, Xenia's life entered a period of deliberate obscurity. Her departure severed the social structures that had defined her identity, replacing them with uncertainty and dependence. Travel in this period was neither safe nor comfortable, especially for women. Yet the risks of exile were accepted as part of her renunciation. Historical sources indicate that Xenia and her companions eventually settled far from her place of origin. This distance was not accidental. Separation ensured that her former status could not follow her. What mattered now was not recognition, but freedom to live a consecrated life beyond imposed expectations. In this new setting, Xenia adopted a rhythm shaped by ascetic discipline. Prayer structured her days, fasting shaped her body, and simplicity defined her material needs. These practices were not pursued as extremes, but as means of maintaining interior clarity within an unfamiliar environment. In this new setting, Xenia adopted a rhythm shaped by ascetic discipline. Prayer structured her days, fasting shaped her body, and simplicity defined her material needs. These practices were not pursued as extremes, but as means of maintaining interior clarity within an unfamiliar environment. Anonymity became a defining feature of Xenia's vocation. She did not disclose her origins, nor did she present herself as an ascetic figure. This concealment protected her discipline from interference and preserved the integrity of her renunciation. Hiddenness was not avoidance, but intention. Within this obscurity, Xenia gradually became known for her stability rather than her story. Trust developed through consistency. Those around her observed a life ordered by restraint attentiveness, and quiet prayer. Influence emerged without pursuit, shaped by presence rather than assertion. Her ascetic life was not detached from responsibility. Acts of charity and care accompanied discipline, directed toward those in need within the community. These actions were practical, unremarkable, and sustained. They reflected a faith lived without display, integrated into daily life. Over time, Xenia's hidden discipline formed the foundation of a quiet ministry. Without title or authority, she offered an example of consecrated life shaped by refusal of prominence. Her witness did not depend on visibility, but on endurance within obscurity. This period of exile established the pattern that would define the rest of her life. Having left one future behind, Xenia did not seek another. Instead, she remained faithful to the path she had chosen, allowing discipline and silence to carry her forward. As years passed, Xenia's presence began to shape the life around her in subtle ways. Without seeking recognition, she became a point of stability within the community. People turned to her not because of reputation, but because her consistency offered reassurance in a world marked by uncertainty and change. This influence developed gradually. Xenia did not teach publicly, nor did she position herself as a spiritual authority. Her guidance emerged through attentiveness and restraint. Words were few, actions measured, and advice offered only when sought. Authority formed through trust rather than role. Despite this growing influence, Xenia continued to guard her anonymity. She avoided references to her past and resisted narratives that might elevate her status. This concealment preserved the integrity of her vocation, preventing admiration from replacing discipline. Identity remained secondary to faithfulness. Community life introduced new demands. Needs arose that required organization, care, and cooperation. Xenia participated fully, not as a leader directing others, but as one among many. Her willingness to serve without distinction reinforced the humility that defined her renunciation. Over time, a small circle formed around her example. This was not a formal community with rules or structure, but a shared orientation toward prayer, simplicity, and mutual care. Xenia's influence functioned as a quiet center rather than an organizing force. In this environment, ascetic discipline proved sustainable. Shared rhythms supported perseverance, while anonymity prevented fixation on personalities. The focus remained on practice rather than identity, on continuity rather than growth. This balance preserved the stability of the group. Accounts emphasize that Xenia never claimed ownership of this influence. She did not frame her life as exemplary, nor did she articulate a method to be followed. What others received came indirectly, shaped by observation rather than instruction. The absence of self-promotion allowed her witness to endure without distortion. In a culture that often equated influence with visibility, Xenia's life demonstrated a different logic. What remained unseen could still sustain others over time. This phase of her life confirmed the character of her renunciation. Having abandoned one future, she did not replace it with another. Instead, she remained present, faithful to obscurity, allowing discipline and service to shape a community without ever placing herself at its center. In her later years, Xenia's life did not shift toward prominence or formal recognition. The same discipline that had shaped her exile continued to define her daily existence. Prayer, restraint, and attentiveness remained central, practiced without alteration as time passed and circumstances changed around her. Age did not soften her commitment, nor did it introduce new ambitions. Xenia did not seek to formalize her way of life or secure its continuation through institutions. Her fidelity was expressed through continuity rather than expansion, remaining rooted in the simplicity she had chosen from the beginning. Those who lived near her continued to rely on her presence. In moments of difficulty, she was sought for prayer and quiet counsel. Her responses remained measured, avoiding certainty where it was not warranted. Discernment was offered without assertion, reinforcing trust without dependency. Historical memory preserves no dramatic account of her final days. Xenia fell asleep in the Lord quietly, consistent with the manner in which she had lived. There was no final gesture intended to define her legacy. What remained was the cumulative weight of a life shaped by renunciation and perseverance. After her repose, remembrance developed gradually. Those who had known her recognized the coherence of her life only in retrospect. The absence of spectacle during her lifetime did not prevent the clarity of her witness from emerging after her death. Memory preserved consistency rather than event. Because her life unfolded within the early centuries of Christianity, before later divisions, Saint Xenia of Rome is fully honored within the Orthodox Church, including the Greek tradition. She is remembered as a venerable ascetic whose sanctity was expressed through hiddenness rather than public action. Her legacy speaks quietly to later generations. It challenges assumptions that faith requires visibility or recognition. Xenia's life demonstrates that withdrawal need not lead to isolation, and that renunciation can sustain community without claiming authority. In a world drawn toward self-definition and affirmation, her witness remains countercultural. She chose not to redefine herself, but to disappear into discipline and prayer. The endurance of her memory affirms that such lives, though easily overlooked, shape the Church through fidelity rather than force. If this documentary helped you reflect on the value of hidden faith and deliberate renunciation, consider subscribing to the channel. Here, we continue to explore the lives of Orthodox saints whose holiness was formed in silence, perseverance, and quiet obedience across history.